All right, hello everybody. So this is going to be a quick review of all the factoring methods that we've learned so far. So without further ado, let's get started. So first we want to review the methods that you're going to use to factor. The first thing is monic patterns. Remember that monic means when the first coefficient in the quadratic is equal to 1. So it starts with x squared. There's no number in front of it. There's always 3 terms, and just go to your x method. Remember, put the last number on the top and then the middle number at the bottom, and then you figure out kind of the pattern there. The next thing you learned about is difference of squares. You know that there's, in this case, instead of the 3 terms like with the monics, there's only going to be 2 terms. And it's going to be a squared term minus a squared term. Remember that they have to be a perfect square. It has to be something identical times each other, right? The next thing is a GCF. GCF is always important to look for. Maybe the hardest to spot, but you have to look at all of the terms and make sure that, they have nothing in common before you start factoring. And then the last thing that you learned about this week is called the non-monic pattern. In this case, there's 3 terms, but instead of a being equal to 1, a is more than 1. And you can easily find factors that multiply to equal a times c. Remember, a times c goes at the top of the x, and then b still goes at the bottom. So we're going to take a look at a few examples and kind of identify what to do. Okay, which method? Bam, I see right away that this is 2 terms, so I'm thinking it has to be GCF or it has to be difference of squares because monic and non-monic would have 3 terms. Okay, great. And then I noticed that these things have nothing in common, so it's probably not GCF. And I see, okay, there's a 9 and an n squared. 9's a perfect square, 1's a perfect square. This is definitely difference of squares. So remember, just like a quick review, let's factor this. I know that 9n squared is 3n times 3n. And then 1 is just 1 times 1, so it's going to be 3n plus 1, 3n minus 1. Not too bad. All right, moving on. Which method? Okay, so I see that there's 2 terms here. That means it's either GCF or difference of squares. It's not a difference here, right? It's not even, it's a plus, not a minus. And none of these are perfect squares. Like 8's not a perfect square, 30's not a perfect square. X is not a perfect square. So then we must know it's going to be a GCF. So, okay, I know that 2 goes into both 8 and 30, okay, and then both terms share an x, so that means my GCF is 2x. So if I factor everything out by 2x, I'm going to divide both terms by 2x, and then that's going to leave me with 2x times 4x plus 15. So that's how a GCF would work. Okay, which method? Okay, I have 2n squared plus 3n minus 9. Okay, initially I see it's 3 terms, and I see that the first term is 2n squared, so I know it's going to be non-monic. Okay, so here goes the steps. We know it's non-monic. So step 1, list your a, b, and c, in this case 2, 3, negative 9. A times c goes at the top, so 2 times negative 9 is 18 right there. Is negative 18, excuse me, and then we have 3 at the bottom. Okay, so then you think of the factors of negative 18. I'm thinking so I'm thinking, okay, positive 6 is negative 3, that's going to equal, times together equals negative 18, but then you add those together equals 3. So this is another form of that box that we did, and you're kind of factoring out here. And you see that, okay, you factor out a 2n for this one, right? And then you factor out a negative 3 out for this one. And then your answer should be 2n minus 3 and plus 3. Pretty cool. Okay, then the last method we see, we have 3 terms, so it's going to be monic or non-monic. And I see here that it is a is equal to 1, so I know it's going to be monic. So this one is going to be a kind of simple x method. We don't have to do any other steps here. So we put 63 at the top, and then we put negative 16 at the bottom. Okay, so I'm thinking 63, that probably 7 and 9, or negative 7 and negative 9 would add up to negative 16, x minus 7, x minus 9. All right, so that's the end. Hope this was a quick review of all of the factoring methods that you guys have learned. Great work.